You can't build a peaceful world on empty stomachs and human misery. Hunger is not an issue of charity. It is an issue of justice. SDG number 2, Zero Hunger.
This is not a negotiable thing, hunger. People have to eat. There's going to be a lot of people. This is jobs and opportunity all the way up and down the value chain. We know how to fix hunger. 100 years ago, we didn't. We actually have the technologies and systems. And I was just struck that this is out of place at our time in history. These images are out of place. Well, guess what? In fact, what we know now is that every 10 seconds, we lose a child to hunger. This is more than HIV, AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis combined. And we know that the issue is not just production of food. And one of my mentors in life is Norman Borlaug, my hero. But today I'm going to talk about access to food, because actually, this year and last year, and during the 2008 food crisis, there was enough food on Earth for everyone to have 2,700 kilocalories. So why is it that we have 1 billion people who can't find food? Perhaps most exciting to me is an idea that Bill Gates, Howard Buffett, and others have supported boldly, which is to ask the question, what if, instead of looking at the hungry as victims, and most of them are small farmers who cannot raise enough food or sell food to even support their own families, what if we view them as the solution, as the value chain to fight hunger? What if, from the women in Africa who cannot sell any food, there's no roads, there's no warehouses, there's not even a tarp to pick the food up with, what if we give the enabling environment for them to provide the food to feed the hungry children?
To get agricultural productivity up, you want many factors working in your favor. You want better seeds. You want farmers to adopt the best seeds. The farmers have got to be a lot more educated, because they can often grow 2 crops in a season, and the way they deal with soil health by rotating the crops can make a big difference. They also need a credit system, because if they don't have the money to get fertilizer, that alone will cut their productivity very substantially. And so that farmer education system, the R&D to make those better seeds, by managing those things well, we predict that we'll get African productivity up to 1.5 times where it is today, and that will get Africa to the point where, even with its population growth, somewhat worse weather, instead of importing food, it will be able to feed itself. Improvements in critical infrastructure will further Africa's ability to feed itself. Investments in road improvements will allow food to move to places it needs to go and reduce the need for expensive air transport. Additional surpluses will be put away in improved storage to better position them for lean years.
Now, to round this off, it all boils down to the ethical challenge of feeding humanity and providing healthy and happy lives for 9 billion people in 36 years. Now, science shows that this can be done. In fact, we can produce food enough for 9 billion people. The challenge is how to do it. We know that we've come to the end of expansion of agriculture. We know we've come to a point where we really need to invest in sustainable practices on current cropland, and we need to shift diets and lifestyles, and particularly address the enormous equity challenge in the world. Just look at a map of phosphorus use and nitrogen use, you'll see immediately that a few rich overuse and the vast majority of poor underutilize. But the big challenge, of course, is this, and this is the EAT agenda. How can we do this? How can we transform food systems that improve human health, are resilient and fair, and safeguards Earth sustainability?
By 2050, we have to double food production in the world. And when you look at the climate and the space available, there's only two places where that can happen. That's Latin America and Sub-Saharan Africa. And a lot has to happen, of course, before we double food production. But one thing is sure, we need better information on weather and water availability in order to produce all the food needed. And that's why we started the TAMO initiative, which will provide the basic data needed to increase food production in the world. Good weather forecasts are vital for farmers. They need to know when it will rain in order to know when to sow and when to apply fertilizer. Satellites are important sources of information, but without ground data, accuracy is low. This is why TAMO aims at establishing a network of 20,000 weather stations across Sub-Saharan Africa. The combination of these ground data with satellite data and weather models will provide reliable weather forecasts for food production. The first step was to co-create the weather stations that are suitable and sustainable in the African context. The weather stations had to be robust, cost-efficient and without moving parts to minimize maintenance. Full use was made of recent innovations in sensing technology and mobile phone communication. In a second step, the weather stations are deployed at schools. The schoolyard provides a safe place for the stations and, at the same time, the students can learn about weather and technology. Education is key in the long term. We now have weather stations in 10 countries and are excited to receive ground data at such a large scale. Finally, we are developing market activities to ensure that the system will be financially self-sustaining. Data will be available free of charge to governments and science, but it will be a modest fee for commercial use of the data, enough to sustain the network. With the TAMO initiative, we will show that it's possible to collect data in Africa reliably, cost-efficiently and financially sustainable. These data are essentially to achieve necessary increase in global food production. This is our contribution to the Sustainable Development Goal, food security for all.
So agriculture is really important actually to achieving all of the Sustainable Development Goals. The vast majority of the poorest people in the world live in rural areas, and they depend on agriculture for their livelihoods. Without getting proper nutrition in that first 1,000 days, a child can be physically and mentally stunted for the rest of its life. By 2030, something like almost 45% of the population is going to be youth. So that means the more stunted youth you have growing up, the worse it is for the economy. But if we can make sure that these kids are getting proper nutrition now, then we can harness a huge dividend from all of those youth, really turning around African economies. We have 10 proven interventions that we know, scientists, doctors, all the experts agree, these are the 10 interventions you need to do. So it's great because we actually know how to solve the problem. And so now all we need is the investment in it. For every dollar you invest in nutrition, you get $16 back. Right now, donor countries are only giving about 1% of their foreign assistance, less than 1% really, of their foreign assistance to nutrition. So that needs to be desperately increased. We got together and put together a list of 10 recommendations that the African leaders needed to put in their African Union Declaration that year. And we worked with a bunch of other civil society organizations. So those civil society organizations represented citizens on the ground to come up with those 10 recommendations. And then we started a public campaign where we got a whole bunch of African recording artists involved and ended up with over 2 million signatures across the continent, and African leaders ended up putting them in the declaration. They used them. So citizen voice is really important, and civil society helping to amplify that citizen voice is really important.
Globally, 1 in 9 people are undernourished. The vast majority of these people live in developing countries. Poor nutrition causes nearly half of the deaths in children under 5, 3.1 million children each year. 66 million primary school-aged children attend classes hungry across the developing world. What can we do to help? Making changes in our own lives. By supporting local farmers or markets and making sustainable food choices, supporting good nutrition for all, and fighting food waste.
Farmerline work with farmers in rural Ghana to help them increase their yield and make more money for themselves. Small-scale farmers find it really difficult to get access to training and information. So then we decided to build mobile technology that will be able to communicate to farmers and send information to them in real time. Because they get access to more information, they're able to make informed decisions which translates into their yield.
Limited access to finance inhibits the capacity of farmers to produce more. Our product is a core banking software that enables farm groups to manage their savings, their credit, using mobile phone.
International Potato Center.
SIP wants to end hunger
and ensure access by all people
to safe, nutritious and sufficient food
all year round.
SIP ለሰው ልጆች ሁሉ አመቱን በሙሉ ለጤና ተስማሚ በንጥረ ነገር የበለጸገ በቂ ምግብ ተደራሽነት በማረጋገጥ ረሃብን ማስወገድ ይፈልጋል።
环境贸易是真心致力于改革饥饿问题，让每个人每天都能够获得充足的既安全又营养的食物。
El SIP quiere acabar con el hambre y garantizar que todas las personas
tengan acceso a una alimentación sana, nutritiva y suficiente durante todo el año.
SIP wil een einde brengen aan honger en toezien dat alle mensen toegang hebben tot voldoende, veilig en voedzaam eten gedurende het hele jaar.
Inataka kumaliza njaa na kuhakikisha upatikanaji wa lishe na chakula kilicho salama na cha kutosha kwa watu wote kila mwaka.
SIP quer acabar com a fome e garantir que todas as pessoas tenham acesso a uma alimentação sana, nutritiva e suficiente durante todo o ano.
See, that's the image many people have when we talk about global hunger. But hunger isn't just in refugee camps. Hunger is a global epidemic affecting communities in sub-Saharan Africa, in Asia, and even in the developed world. It's estimated that there are over 800 million hungry people in the world. And 18 million of those people live in cities in North America, Europe, and Australia. See, when most people talk about global hunger, they think that the problem is that there isn't enough food in the world. But the problem isn't the lack of food. Because the absurd thing is that there actually is enough food in the world to feed the entire population. See, the problem isn't the lack of food. Hunger is a logistics problem. It is a problem of getting the available food to the people that need it most. It is a problem that affects all aspects of the supply chain. It includes the elements such as storage, transportation, packaging, international shipping, customs, things such as the road networks and tracking and visibility capabilities. It's estimated that about a third of the food produced in the world is wasted. Some of it rots in warehouses awaiting transportation to the market, while some of it rots at ports and border crossings awaiting customs clearance. And then some of it just rots in the field because the farmers do not think it's economically worth it for them to harvest it. In India, for example, 30% of the fruits and vegetables that are harvested rot before they get to the people that need them most because they lack proper cold storage facilities. And every year, farmers in sub-Saharan Africa lose 30 to 40% of their crops after harvesting to insects, rodents, rain, and mold. In Africa, it's estimated that the food that goes to waste could feed up to 49 million people, which I think is a shame. But you see, to me, this is not just about statistics. I was born and raised in Kenya, a country where agriculture is the backbone of a very diverse and bustling economy. But people still go hungry there, and food rots in the farms because farmers just don't have access to a proper supply chain to get their surpluses to the market.
Los Angeles River, once a junk graveyard. Like Dante in Paradise Lost, she needed a poet to lead her out of the inferno. That poet is Lewis McAdams. 40 years ago, cutting a hole in a wire fence, he crept down and asked her if he could speak for her. She didn't say no. And that's how Friends of the Los Angeles River began.
The river is a rigorous mistress, but when you tickle her with your deeds, you can hear her laughter from beneath her concrete corset.
So, do you know who wrote that?
No.
Well, the river can always hear us.
Wake up, honey, and listen to the wind outside.
The river is a rigorous mistress.
But when you tickle her with your deeds, you can hear her laughter
from beneath her concrete corset. It's pretty deep.
What do you think a corset is?
A corset is like something that's form-fitting, that like gives a woman shape.
I think that refers directly to this river, which is paved with concrete. But it's whimsical. That's what a river is. You can never step in the same river twice.
The hurricane is breaking through tonight. Mother Nature's unchecked wrath won't leave nothing in her path. This morning she scorched.
The river is a regard mistress, but when we tickle her with your deeds, you can hear her laughter from beneath her concrete corset.
I'll help you. Oh shoot! Oh shoot! Oh, that wasn't bad.
I'm pretty sure he's saying that even if we cover up our land with the concrete, there's still life blooming underneath it.
Cool! Look, Jacob, look what we found!
But it's hidden from the world, so we cannot see its beauty.
You can hear her laughter from beneath her concrete corset.
I guess it would mean when you like disturb her, the dark stuff or the stuff that you don't want comes from all over the place. I guess I would say that.
To me it means you need to be careful.
Mother Nature's unchecked wrath won't leave nothing in her path. This morning she scorched up the plains. Now she's brought the wind and rain. Shut, and the windows ain't go.
I mean, for me, it's recognizing and taking a look at, what you do and how it affects what's around you, in this case being the river, and just knowing that we can make a difference and be a part of it.
The hurricane is breaking through tonight. The hurricane is breaking through too.
Wait, who do you think wrote that?
It was either Walt Whitman, because I don't think concrete was around then, or who's the other one? Adams? There's a poet from the 20th century. It's Adams something, but Walt Whitman is my guess.
Lost Valley's bow tie, Fletcher bow tie, and frog spot are estimated to have about 1,000 volunteers.
The river is the unknown gem of Los Angeles, so we need to clean it up and keep taking care of it and bring it back to life.
Why am I here? Because we love LA.
and we love our river, and we want it to be as nice as possible.
Kind of like fishing, isn't it?
Hey, look at it, it's getting right there. If we get to that log, you got another big piece. Oh no, it went by.
Life is no problem down in this bottom under the sea. Go.
So barbed wire doesn't stop volunteers.
No, they did a perfect job. You know, not only the volunteers, but the staff, Cleaning Green, Conservation Corps, and everybody, you know, joined together to make the LA River better again. As you could tell, all this trash came from the river. And thanks to the volunteers and everybody, you know, we could keep the river maintained clean again.
Oh, it's an anime. It's basically about this guy who comes from outer space and he gets used to Earth, and then he's a Super Saiyan, and then he kills bad guys that try to kill Earth.
Yeah, he's technically a god. He's technically a god.
Yeah, God.
He fights bad guys.
And is it, does he really volunteer?
Yeah,
he does.
How does he volunteer?
He saves the Earth like 1,000 times.
Say that again?
He saves the Earth like 1,000 times and things like that. Yeah.
After today, what do you think about the river being the same river?
Well, it definitely isn't the same river because all these volunteers just helped out a lot to clean it up. And I mean, obviously there's still a lot more to get clean, but it's a good step forward. You know?
The last volunteers.
There's a couple more out back there, still in it.
Hey, Turkey's here.
Every year, first responders and military in the Pittsburgh area look forward to a hot, homemade Thanksgiving meal on the job, like paramedic Emily Wheeler.
It's just so nice to have somebody recognize that we have to be here. I think it just kind of speaks to what churches should be about, just kind of reaching out and helping their neighbors.
Those people that are working like that, sometimes we forget that they're out there, helping save lives and doing things for other people that sometimes goes unnoticed. So we've gotten tremendous feedback, and now that they're used to it, they'll say, "We were waiting for that. We're glad you're here."
Happy Thanksgiving.
Volunteers from Coraopolis United Methodist Church deliver more than 100 dinners to local police, ambulance personnel, and military working at the 911th Air Wing.
To me, this is the greatest ability to give back because they're first responders and they're protecting our country. So the best thing I can do is to help make their day a little bit better.
The deliveries are just part of a free Thanksgiving dinner at the church. That was the vision of member Jeannie Cosgrove. After her mother and sister died within 1 week in 2011, Cosgrove approached her church about starting a new tradition.
That first Thanksgiving was very difficult when it was just the four of us because we were used to having a big family, you know, everybody there, lots of people, lots of conversation and laughter. Just to be able to come here, we walk around, talk to the guests that are here. It gives us a whole family again.
The entire church begins preparing for the feast in July, each month gathering different canned goods and non-perishables for delivery.
We're currently in Kansas City, Missouri, and so we always plan to come back at Thanksgiving so that we can take part of this and be part of our home church.
In the dining room, the church uses real china, real silverware, placemats decorated by the Sunday school, and even football on a large screen TV. All the comforts of home.
A lot of the people that come are just lonely people that don't have anyone to be with, and it just gives them somebody to spend the day with.
And so the need that Coraopolis United Methodist Church really does fulfill on Thanksgiving Day is that bringing together of God's people and helping others not be alone, not just physically alone, but not feel alone in their heart and in their mind.